Y'all seen that clip? The one where Durk just froze mid-sentence, eyes low, hand on his face like he just heard a ghost whisper his name. Yeah, that one. The room went quiet, camera still rolling, and somebody in the back said, "Turn that off, bro." But it was too late. The audio leaked. They said those were THF Zoo's final words recorded hours before everything went left. You can hear it in Durk's breathing. That kind of pain that don't got no volume, it just sits in the air. He ain't even responded first, just stared off like he was watching memories he never wanted to replay. See, what people forget is Durk and Zoo wasn't just rap partners. They was trenches mate, loyalty certified. The type of bond you don't build in a studio. It come from nights dodging the same losses, carrying the same names on your hoodie. So when news hit that Zoo was gone, it wasn't no headline moment. It was personal, deep. Something broke in the circle that day. And when Durk heard that message, when he realized those were Zoo's last words meant for him, something in his face changed. Folks online said it was guilt. Others said it was fear. But nah, it was something colder. 'Cause if you know Durk, you know loyalty been both his weapon and his weakness. And this moment right here, this wasn't about fame, charts, or clout. It was about the price of brotherhood, the cost of surviving when everybody you love don't make it out with you. Stay tuned. 'Cause what happened next proves this whole situation was way deeper than it looks. It started way before the cameras ever caught it. Before the blogs, the leaks, the lives. Back when everything still felt like brotherhood and ambition. Durk and Zoo weren't just two names in the same city. They were two codes written in the same dirt. Same side, same pain, same hunger. They used to say, "Ain't no love in the field," but we made some out of loyalty. And back then, that was real. They came up out the low end, where every block had a story that never got told right. Nights where the wind carried both music and sirens. That's where they learned how to survive before they learned how to rap. Zoo had this wild energy, loud, funny, unpredictable, but solid. He was the type to check you out of love. Durk was different, more quiet, always thinking 10 steps ahead. Together, they had balance. Zoo would say, "You think too much, bro," and Durk would smirk. "That's why we still breathing." They moved like that for years, one voice, two paths. Durk chasing studios, building his name. Zoo holding it down for the block, making sure the team stayed straight. But fame don't move like loyalty. Fame comes with shadows. One day, it's love. Next day, it's envy. And somewhere in between the interviews and the tours, that space between them started to grow. It started small, little things. A missed call here, a misunderstood post there. Then somebody screenshotted a message. Somebody else whispered about money. And in Chicago, whispers move faster than bullets. Folks started saying Zoo felt left out, like Durk forgot who held him down before the lights came on. Durk, on the other hand, felt like he was still carrying the same love, just with more to lose. They both right, they both wrong. That's how these stories usually go. One night around 3 a.m., Zoo hit Durk directly. No manager, no third party. Just a call that started with silence. Durk said, "What's good, gang?" Zoo waited, then replied, "I'm straight. Just trying to see where your heart at." The line got quiet again. Durk knew what that meant, but he ain't wanna argue. He just said, "You know where my heart at, bro? It's the same place it's always been." But Zoo wasn't buying it. "Nah, it don't feel like that no more. I see the way you move. I see who around you now. All them new faces, new energy. We built something real and you act like it's just business." Durk leaned back, eyes low, thinking how fame made every move look fake, even when it came from truth. "Bro, I ain't never switch," he said softly. I just grew. That's it. Zoo sighed. Yeah, but when you grow too far, you forget who watered you. And that line hit hard. Durk ain't respond. The call ended like a storm that never finished raining. After that, things shifted. No public beef, no diss tracks. Just distance, the kind that speaks louder than any words. But then one live video changed everything. Zoo was in the whip with a few of his guys, music blasting, energy high. Somebody asked about Durk in the comments, and Zoo's mood switched instantly. He said, "I don't got nothing bad to say about bro, but loyalty ain't what it used to be." The chat blew up. Folks clipped it, reposted it, spun it. Within hours, pages ran headlines like THF Zoo throws shade at Lil Durk. Durk saw it. Of course he did. He ain't say nothin' though. That's his rule, never argue on the internet. But inside, it hurt. Not just because of the post, but because he knew Zoo didn't mean it with hate. That was pain talking. Pain and pride. Days passed. Weeks. Durk kept moving shows, studio sessions, label meetings. But every time he looked at his phone, that silence from Zoo felt heavier. Meanwhile, Zoo was spiraling. People around him said he'd been moving different, treckless, tired. Like he knew something was coming. Then came that night. Sources said Zoo had gone to meet some folks about a situation that got too messy too fast. Wrong place, wrong energy. It turned violent fast. By the time news hit the net, it was too late. The city lost another one. When the word reached Durk, he didn't believe it. He called 3, 4 people just to confirm. When the truth settled in, he disappeared for hours. No calls, no posts, no nothing. But what nobody knew then, what surfaced later, was that Zoo had recorded a voice memo the night before. Just his voice, raw, unfiltered. He talked about loyalty, about brotherhood, about making peace with what's coming. "If anything ever happened to me," he said, "just tell bro I never switched. I just wanted him to see I was still with him." That message found its way to Durk days later. And when he pressed play, the room went silent. You could hear every breath he took. Every blink sounded like a thought he couldn't finish. That's the moment from the leaked clip, the one everybody saw. The one that started this whole wave of speculation. But what that clip didn't show was the weight that came before it. Durk sat there for a long time, listening over and over, like if he replayed it enough. He could rewrite the ending, and that's where the story turns right therein. That silence between guilt and grief. 'Cause what came after that silence didn't just change how Durk moved, changed how everybody around him looked at loyalty, loss, and legacy. After that silence, Durk started seeing the world different. Every handshake felt heavier. Every smile came with a question mark. He stopped showing up to certain places, stopped answering certain numbers. People thought he was just grieving, but it was more than that. It was reflection, guilt, and paranoia all mixing together. See, when someone that close to you dies with unfinished words between y'all, the silence becomes a ghost. Durk had always been the type to internalize pain, to turn it into music instead of arguments. But this hit different. When Zoo died, it wasn't just a loss, it was like a mirror shattered inside him. All those late nights, all those plans, all those private promises they made when nobody believed in them. Gone on the studio, he'd sit for hours staring at the mic. His engineer said he'd lay down 2 bars, stop, and just whisper, "Nah, not yet." The music wasn't flowing. It was fighting him. His crew tried to lift him up, tell him to get back on timing, but they couldn't fill the space Zoo left behind. One day, one of the older guys from the neighborhood pulled up on him, a mentor type, someone who'd seen everything twice. He said, "You can't keep punishing yourself for what you couldn't control, lil bro." Durk just nodded, not saying a word. The older dude sighed and said, "The problem with being loyal in this game is, you end up carrying everyone's ghosts." That line stuck with Durk for days. Ghosts. Yeah, that's what it felt like. Zoo wasn't gone. Not really, he was in the air, in the city, in the songs they used to play. And Durk knew people were watching how he'd respond. The fans, the blogs, the ops air, body waiting for his next move, waiting to see if pain would make him fall or make him colder. And then, like the universe had a cruel sense of timing, the leaked voice note hit the internet. Nobody still knows who uploaded that same voice memo Zoo left behind. It spread like wildfire. Every page reposted it. You could hear Zoo's voice, rough but clear. "If something ever happened to me, tell bro, I never switched." The world heard it. And overnight, the story became public property. Comment sections filled up with chaos. Some said, Durk gotta feel that. Others blamed him directly, like he had something to do with it. Folks who never even knew Zoo started preaching about loyalty, betrayal, karma. And that's when you realize social media don't grieve, it just entertains tragedy. Durk saw the clip trending. His phone wouldn't stop buzzing. For a while, he didn't respond. He wanted to keep that pain private. But you can't hide from something that's already gone viral. The next day, he posted a picture. No caption, just a photo of Zoo and a broken heart emoji. The comments flooded half love, half judgment. Later that night, he called one of his closest guys, the only one he still trusted fully. The conversation went like this. "You've seen that?" Durk asked quietly. "Yeah, bro. Everybody seen it? You think I failed him? Nah, you did what you could. Y'all just ain't get to fix it in time. Still feel like I shoulda said something. Made it right." His homie paused. Sometimes the streets don't give you a chance to say sorry. They just take people away. Durk didn't respond. He just exhaled slow, the kind of breath that sound like pain disguised as patience. A few days later, he hit the studio again. This time, he didn't bring nobody, just him and the mic. No jewelry, no entourage, no distractions. The lights dimmed, and he started recording. Not a song for radio. Not for numbers. Just a voice, bleeding honesty. The hook repeated one line. "They say I lost a brother, but I lost myself too." That song never dropped. It stayed locked on his hard drive, private. Maybe it was too raw, maybe too real. But people around him said that was the moment he found his closure, at least tried to. Still, the streets don't let you grieve in peace. While Durk was trying to heal, rumors kept circling. Some said Zoo had been betrayed by someone close. Others said it was over business. Nobody knew the truth, but everyone had a story. And in Chicago, stories become weapons. One night, Durk met with one of Zoo's cousins, someone who was like family to both of them. They sat in the car for hours, rain tapping the windshield. "You know, he really loved you like a brother," the cousin said. "He just felt like the world changed too fast." Durk nodded, eyes on the streetlights. "Yeah, I changed too fast." "Nah," the cousin replied. "You just started surviving different." He ain't mad at that. Durk didn't know how to reply. He just said, "Wish I could tell him that." After that conversation, something shifted again. Durk started calling people he hadn't spoken to in years, checking on them, sending help quietly, keeping ties strong. It wasn't about making things right publicly. It was about repairing what fame had broken privately. But fame got a cruel way of pulling you back in. Soon, interviewers started asking questions. Subtle ones, like, "You've been through a lot lately, how are you holding up?" Durk would answer carefully, "I'm learning. I'm still learning what loyalty really means when the world watching." Behind that calm answer was a storm. Nights when he couldn't sleep, scrolling through old videos of him and Zoo laughing. Clowning around, just being brothers before the world got involved. The pain started turning into purpose. He began funding community projects quietly under Zoo's name, no announcement, no promo, just giving back where it mattered. But the guilt still lingered. See, the thing about loyalty is it ain't about what you say, it's about what you prove when no one's looking. And for Durk, that realization was like a slow burn. Every success now felt double-edged, pride on one side, loss on the other, and in the middle of all that, new voices started rising around him, young artists looking up to him, calling him Big Bro, asking for guidance. He'd look at them and see reflections of himself and Zoo in those early days, hungry, fearless, naive. So when one of them said, "Bro, I want to be just like you," Durk smiled faintly and replied, "Nah, be better than me. Keep your circle small and your heart clean." The kid laughed, not knowing how heavy those words really were. Time passed, but the streets never forget. Every mural, every mention of Zoo's name reminded Durk that loyalty had a price and he'd already paid part of it. But deep down, he knew there was still something unfinished, something unsaid. And that truth, what Durk found out next, would take everything he thought he knew about Zoo, loyalty and brotherhood, and flip it upside down. A few months after everything settled down, Durk got a call from someone he hadn't heard from in years. It was an old connect from back before the fame, one of them quiet types who always knew things before everyone else. His voice was calm but heavy. "Bro," he said, "there's something you need to hear. Something about Zoo." Durk froze for a second. "What you mean?" he asked, trying to sound steady. "It ain't nothing dirty, just you ain't got the full picture." He ain't tell nobody what he was really dealing with. Those words sat in Durk's chest like a stone. He agreed to meet. Same night, low-key spot on the south side. No cameras. No entourage, just two old friends and a story that would change everything. The guy slid his phone across the table. Screen cracked, messages pulled up. "This was Zoo's other phone," he said. "He used to hit me from here when he ain't want to be found." Durk scrolled through, reading bits of messages between Zoo and someone else. It wasn't drama, it was pain. Zoo had been dealing with pressure from all sides: street tension, family stress, people asking for things he couldn't give. And through it all, he still spoke about Durk with love. Messages like, "Bro got a good heart. He just lost in the game right now, and I still believe in us, even if we don't talk." Durk stared at the screen for a long time. His eyes didn't move, but his whole soul did. He whispered, "So he never hated me." The man nodded. "Nah, he was protecting you, even when y'all wasn't talking." That hit different. It broke something open in Durk. All that guilt, all that confusion, neat, flipped. What if Zoo had known things were closing in and distanced himself on purpose? What if he'd been trying to shield Durk from the fallout? That thought ate at him. Loyalty wasn't the question anymore, it was sacrifice. The type nobody talks about, where you take the blame to keep someone else safe. The next week, Durk visited Zoo's mom. No cameras, no media, just quiet. She opened the door and hugged him like a son. "You finally came," she said, eyes watery. He'd be happy to see that. They sat in the living room, old pictures on the walls, Zoo's laughter frozen in frames. Durk couldn't even speak at first. He just looked at a photo of them from back in the day, both of them smiling with no jewelry, no fame, just joy. "Finally," he said, "I ain't know how to come back around." "I felt like I failed him." She shook her head. "You ain't fail him, baby. Life just moved too fast. He knew you loved him. He told me that." They talked for hours. Stories, memories, lessons. At one point, she said, "You know what Zoo always said? He said if he ever left this earth, he wanted you to keep building, to make sure his name never got lost in the mix. Durk looked up, eyes glassy but steady. "I got him forever," he whispered. After that visit, something inside him reset. He started moving with new energy, less noise, more purpose. He set up a scholarship in Zoo's name for kids from their neighborhood. Quietly funded it, no big announcement. It wasn't about going viral anymore. It was about legacy. But even as he tried to heal, the streets kept spinning their own stories. People started saying things like, "Zoo died 'cause of that loyalty." "Durk changed after that. He ain't the same." And the truth was, they were right. He wasn't the same. But change ain't always weakness. Sometimes it's survival. He stopped moving around heavy crowds, started watching who was next to him more carefully. Every circle got smaller. Even his crew noticed. One of them said, "Bro, you don't even laugh like you used to." Durk smirked faintly. "Ain't as much to laugh about no more." There were nights he'd drive through the old block, windows down, just listening to the city breathe. Every corner held a memory. He'd see kids outside rapping over phone speakers, and he'd think, "We used to be them." That reflection started turning into something deeper. He realized how much pain the next generation was inheriting. So, he started talking different in interviews. Not preaching, but teaching through his story. When someone asked him about loyalty, he said, "Loyalty don't mean dying together, it means living right when the other person can't." That line went viral for a week, quoted everywhere, but most folks missed the emotion behind it. Meanwhile, rumors about Zoo's last few days kept surfacing. Every version twisted a little more. Some said he was set up, some said it was random. Durk tried to stay silent, but one night, during a session, he snapped. He looked at his engineer and said, "They keep talking like they know him, like they was there. They don't know what he carried." He punched in a verse right after, his voice cracking with pain. "They say my bro ain't make it, but he made me who I am." It wasn't just lyrics, it was truth. As months passed, the internet moved on, but the pain didn't. Grief don't expire. It just changes shape. Durk started seeing flashes of Zoo in his dreams, sometimes laughing, sometimes warning him. One dream stuck with him. They were back on the block, kids again, and Zoo said, "Keep moving smart, bro. I got my piece now. It's on you to keep the name alive." When Durk woke up, he wrote it all down, word for word. He said later that dream gave him closure, but it also gave him responsibility. One night after a show, he was sitting backstage, quiet, scrolling through old messages. His security came up and asked, "You good, bro?" His security came up and asked, "You good, bro?" Durk looked up and said, "Nah, but I'm getting there." That's the thing about growth, it don't come from peace. It comes from pain that finally starts making sense. He began mentoring some of the younger rappers coming out the trenches, the ones who reminded him of Zoo's energy. He told them the same thing over and over: move with purpose. Don't chase love from the streets, they don't love nobody back. And in that advice, you could hear the echo of everything he learned from losing his brother. But even as he healed, there was still one more truth waiting to surface, something left behind that he hadn't discovered yet. It came one night when he was going through old files on a laptop Zoo used to record with. Deep in a folder labeled Roughs, he found a short clip. Zoo talking straight into the camera, saying, "If you watching this, that mean I ain't here. I just want bro to know I never blamed him for nothing. I was just trying to keep the peace." Durk sat there staring at the screen, silent tears rolling down. He whispered, "You always was the real one." That clip never saw the light of day. He kept it private, like a sacred thing. And that's where things truly shifted, from grief to legacy, from loss to leadership. But it also raised one last question. If loyalty can save one person but cost another, was it worth it in the end? That question stayed on his mind for months. Was it worth it? If loyalty meant losing pieces of yourself just to keep a bond alive, was it still loyalty or was it punishment? Durk wrestled with that every night. Fame gave him money, but it also gave him mirrors. And in those reflections, he kept seeing Zoo smiling, warning, forgiving. He'd be in the studio surrounded by platinum plaques, but sometimes it felt empty. All the trophies in the world couldn't weigh more than one real friendship. He told one of his close guys, "Everybody want the wins, but they don't want the losses that come with them." The guy asked, "So what you want now?" Durk just stared off and said, "Peace. I want peace for once, but peace don't come easy when you got a past like his." Every city he toured in, someone would come up saying, "Zoo was my guy too," or "He told me stories about y'all." And every time, it brought him right back to that same pain. Still, he listened to every story, smiled at every memory. Because keeping Zoo's name alive wasn't just something he said. It was something he lived. The label wanted him to capitalize on it. They suggested a tribute album, something commercial. But Durk said, "Nah, that ain't for sale." He didn't want to turn grief into profit. Instead, he started building something else, an organization for youth mentorship in the city. Built around the same values he and Zoo grew up on: loyalty, survival, and community. During one of those sessions with the kids, a young boy asked him, "How do you stay loyal when everybody changes?" Durk smiled sadly and said, "You stay loyal to who you are first. If you don't got that, your loyalty to others don't mean nothing." The room went quiet. Even the adults felt that one nights kept passing and the seasons changed. The city looked the same, but he didn't. He carried himself with a quieter confidence now. The kind that comes from surviving storms and learning from them. People around him noticed. "You different now," they'd say. "More patient." And he'd laugh a little, replying, "Pain'll do that to you." One evening, he went to visit the spot where they used to record their early tracks. The old studio was half torn down, graffiti covering the walls. He walked inside, dust floating in the light, and stood where their first mic used to be. Memories flooded in Zoo, hyping him up, telling him, "Bro, this the one, I'm telling you." He smiled, eyes watery. Then he whispered to the empty room, "We made it, bro. Even if you ain't here, we made it." He left a folded note under a cracked speaker before walking out. Nobody knows what he wrote, but those close to him said it was the moment he finally let go of the guilt. Not the memory, not the love, just the guilt. But life got a way of testing you right after you find peace. Not long after that visit, a new controversy hit the blog. Somebody from Zoo's old circle went live, saying they had proof Zoo and Durk fell out over money. Same cycle again: reposts, reactions, fake outrage. People tagging Durk non-stop, trying to bait him into responding. This time, he didn't fold. He didn't post, didn't speak. Instead, he went live one night, calm, quiet, just him and the camera. He said, "Everybody keep talking like they was there. Y'all don't know what we shared. You can't fake a bond like that. Sometimes brothers argue, sometimes distance happens, but love never die. I know where my heart at, and he know too." He ended the live right there, no drama, no arguments. That silence said more than 1,000 words. The next morning, the internet flipped again. Some people finally understood. Others kept speculating. But for the first time, Durk didn't care. Because he wasn't reacting for them anymore, he was moving for himself and for Zoo's memory, in private. Though he still had his moments. Those quiet nights in hotel rooms, lights off, phone face down, thinking about everything that could have gone differently. And that's the thing about growing from pain: you don't ever really heal. You just learn how to live with the scars. Months later, he dropped a song that wasn't promoted heavy. No major rollout. Just a late-night upload called to the ones who stayed true. The track opened with a voice message, Zoo's laughter. Then Durk's verse came in soft, almost like he was talking to him instead of rapping. We ain't lose each other. We just lost the world between us. The fans caught it instantly. Some cried. Some called it his most honest track ever. That song wasn't for numbers, it was for closure. And somehow, through that music, you could feel him making peace with everything. After that, he started appearing less online, more grounded in real life. He'd show up to schools, community centers, giving back quietly. One teacher said he didn't even want pictures. He just wanted to talk to the kids about choices. And when someone asked him off camera why he still did it, he said, "'Cause Zoo ain't get that chance. So I gotta make sure somebody else do." That's the kind of loyalty that don't trend but lasts forever. In one of his later interviews, a journalist asked, "If you could tell Zoo one thing right now, what would it be?" Durk took a deep breath and said, "I'd tell him I forgive both of us. We was just trying to figure life out, and life moved faster than we could." And that right there summed up the whole story to brothers trying to navigate loyalty in a world that tests it every second. One gone too soon, the other learning to carry both their legacies. The truth is, loyalty in the streets don't look like fairy tales. It's messy. It's painful. It's full of unspoken love and misunderstood silence. But real loyalty, it's what keeps you from turning bitter when life does you dirty. It's what makes you build something lasting instead of burning everything down. So, by the time the anniversary of Zoo's death came around, Durk didn't post no flashy tribute. He just dropped a single candle emoji with the caption, "Forever Twin." That was it. No need for more. The people who knew, knew. And that's how the story really ends, not with explosions. Not with revenge, but with reflection. A man who started in chaos, finally learning what peace feels like. Even if it came from heartbreak. Still, every now and then. When the lights go out after a show and the crowd fades away, Durk says he can almost hear Zoo laughing somewhere in the distance, like he never really left, just watching from another side. Proud that his brother finally understood what all the pain was for. And that's how the circle completes itself through love, loss, and the lessons they leave behind. Because, in the end, it was always way deeper than it looked. And that's the thing about stories like this, people see the headlines, the rumors, the clips that go viral, but they never see the weight behind the silence. What happened between Durk and Zoo wasn't just about two names in the rap game, it was about loyalty, grief, and what it costs to survive when your past is still bleeding through your success. When Durk heard those final words, it didn't just break him, it woke him up. It showed him that real loyalty ain't about standing next to somebody in pictures. It's about standing on what you built even after they're gone. He turned pain into purpose, guilt into growth, and loss into leadership. That's the difference between surviving the game and letting it consume you. 'Cause the truth is, every artist, every man from the trenches, faces that moment where loyalty, ego, and survival all pull you in different directions. And the ones who make it out ain't the ones who never fall. It's the ones who learn how to keep their soul intact when everything else falls apart. So maybe the real lesson from this story ain't about fame or beef. Maybe it's about understanding that love in the streets don't always look pretty. It looks like scars that remind you what matters most. And for Durk, Zoo's name became more than a memory. It became a compass. But what y'all think about this situation? Did he handle it the right way, or could he have done more? Was his silence strength or guilt? Drop your thoughts below. Let's talk about it in the comments. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, 'cause this story right here, this story about loyalty, pain, and brotherhood, it's far from over. And brotherhood, it's far from over.